everyone, Ann Wyatt here, Vice President of Client Success for Health Fitness. Welcome to the Health Fitness Podcast. All right, welcome back to the Health Fitness Podcast. So I want you to take a second. I want you to think about the people you work with and the connections you have with them. And I'm guessing that some of your best connections aren't happening because you're sitting across a conference table or you're in a Teams or a Zoom meeting. That's because we know that sometimes the best connections aren't happening in meetings. They're actually happening on the pickleball court or along a walking path or even cheering along your coworkers when they're doing a 5K for the company. But here's the thing to know. Sometimes bringing people together doesn't have to be when they're playing a sport. And that's because we know that sometimes you want to make sure that you give people an opportunity to just step away from their desk and actually focus on having a little bit of fun. So today we're talking about how recreation, no matter how you define it, really helps you turn coworkers into teammates and helps you create that true connection and ultimately build stronger workplace communities. So when all is said and done, I hope that you like today's podcast. If you do, I hope you hit like and subscribe and maybe even give the Health Fitness Podcast a follow. And from there, you won't miss any conversations we have. So let's get started. We actually have Rebecca Davis Hipp with us today. She is a director of client success with Health Fitness, and she has a really impressive portfolio of business that she oversees. And she's become a resident expert in the area of recreation activities. And she's teaching us how do we move from workplace well-being within four walls to pushing out well beyond that. So Rebecca, welcome to the Health Fitness Podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Ann. I'm excited to be here.
It's your first time, right?
It is. Yeah. And, when you say I'm a recreation expert, I would have never thought of myself that way, but it's something I've gotten a lot more comfortable with as it looks a little bit different from what we maybe originally defined as recreation.
It's not your mother's recreation anymore, is it?
It's not. It certainly isn't.
I love it. All right. Well, why don't we start really simply? What does recreation look like today?
I think when we hear the term recreation, especially within a work site setting, we immediately go to a softball league or a corporate basketball team or something like that. And it looks so much different than that today. It's really interesting because it's become less about sports or physical activity and more about shared relationships and really leisure activities, which is totally my speed, right? So we're seeing clients offer everything from book clubs to foodie groups to sewing clubs or crafting activities. So it really can take on a completely different life of its own that doesn't have to involve a court or a field or even breaking a sweat, which is, again, my speed over here.
I love it. Well, and I love that people can do it at work, right? It just makes so much sense. They're at work probably more than they're at home sometimes. So it makes sense to give them opportunities like that. And I know that we see a lot of companies now that we work with, they are talking about the number one things they talk about: employee engagement, they talk about culture. And I think the past couple of years really kind of had them all take a step back in that area because of the workplace environment or even not even being at work, so that they were losing some things. So I know now they're investing really heavily in that area. So I want to understand from you, how does recreation fit in? Is it a nice to have or is it strategic?
Honestly, I think it's a little bit of both. Recreation should be fun, right? That's a given, and there's value in that alone. But what also matters is the fun can also translate and create some of those outcomes that I feel like our clients are looking for. But bottom line, when people participate in recreation activities, whether it is on a court or it is a little something that's more non-standard and there's fun involved, those relationships are starting to develop and happen, and often with people that coworkers they might not ever otherwise interact with. And so that creates that kind of culture of belonging and that relationship that people are still, craving from, like you said, so many people were working remotely. People aren't back in return to office at a normal cadence, and they're craving that connection and those relationships. And for me, I kind of think of it as this third space mentality of what we're seeing and what we're able to create. So if the first space is your
third space. Tell me more.
Right. The first space is your home, right? Where you're most comfortable, where you're most relaxed, where you spend the most time. The second space has a little bit more of a more focused, more professional view. So that's your work environment. It's where you spend time, but you're very purposeful while you're there. And then the third space traditionally was thought of as some place that you mingle to naturally. You might create some conversation and relationships. So your favorite coffee shop, maybe
Right.
a favorite bar that you go to. I think of Friends and Central Perk, right? They were always at Central Perk in the
Yeah.
Friends episode, and that's where they always, had a good time and were cutting up and having conversations. And what we're seeing is that in a corporate environment, our fitness centers, our wellness centers are starting to become that third space
Hmm.
within the work site where those relationships are starting to form organically. And as such, then those connections lead into better teamwork, better
Yeah.
collaboration. And so it's where the corporate and the personal kind of start to align really nicely.
More than ever now, right? I think it always was there, but now it feels like it just escalated or elevated more than ever before. So Rebecca, give us some examples. What are we supporting across our client sites where we're seeing things, of course, sport, but beyond that?
Yeah, I mean, it just looks so different. And we're seeing things like chess matches happening in the lobby. We are
Yeah.
seeing cornhole or ping pong or things that are don't require a lot of skill, but can still, take on an air of competition, but a lot of fun too. And things like themed trivia. I had a client last night specifically had a themed Friends trivia
Oh,
session.
fun.
We've had Taylor Swift trivia where you've gone through the eras if you're a
The
Swiftie or know what
Swifties.
that means. Yeah. So bingo events. So if you have a site where families or spouses, children are allowed, what a great way to bring in the family and have that connection that we're able to contribute to. So it really can take on so many different lives of its own. And we have used and got creative with spaces, turning cafeterias and meeting rooms into a space where these type of activities can occur.
Right. Yeah, I think that's really important. And so hearing that they're doing something in a lobby or just being more creative around space is really important for sure. What do you think the future will look like with rec programming?
I think it has to be about flexibility and choice, right? Not
Hmm.
everybody wants to join an 8-week league or some sort of long term commitment. They want opportunities that fit their schedule at that given point in time, and knowing that the schedule can change quite frequently,
Yeah.
depending on the workload, their personal life. And so for our clients and organizations that want to do some type of rec programming, it's going to be important that it has a good mix and variety of the physical, the social, and the recreational so that the participant or the member can really choose for themselves what they want to do. And as the programming continues to evolve, we are seeing our clients really want to dedicate a support to recreational programming with that real intentionality and ownership behind it because they are starting to see the change that it can have within their culture and the value that that brings.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that it's finally getting recognized because it is such a great way for that connection to happen. So you've seen plenty of examples of what's happening good out there, but what are organizations doing wrong when it comes to recreation? Because I know that's that too.
Yeah, and it's not for lack of effort, right? We
Sure.
always have the
Yes.
best of intentions, but I think sometimes we just over engineer it or overcomplicate it. It feels a little
Hmm.
bit too structured and
Yeah.
it feels more like an obligation instead of an opportunity. And so some of the most successful programs, actually are the simplest because it's easy to join, it's easy to
Hmm.
leave, it doesn't require a huge commitment on
Yeah.
the part of the associate. It just needs to be fun and accessible so that it can reach a really broad audience. We typically see people that start to infuse into some of these recreation activities, then use it as a gateway to other programming that they might not otherwise would have joined because of the relationships and the confidence that they're starting to experience.
Yeah. And to your point, we are seeing a lot of clients really starting to evolve in this direction because they're having success. But I think more need to get on the recreation train, right? Because you can
Right.
have such great impact. So let's talk a little bit about leadership participation. Because I want to know from you, like, do you think it's important if a manager shows up? Like, how does leadership play into all of this?
Yeah, I think leadership support is absolutely important in the fact that you're giving your employees permission to participate. When the
Mm-hmm.
associates feel like my leader is creating an opportunity for me to go participate or that it's encouraged, then the engagement becomes a little bit more widely acceptable, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that the leader has to actually participate in all the activities, but rather just create that willingness for it to happen. Where we do
Mm-hmm.
see leaders really getting involved is when we have requests for corporate team building activities, which is really
Mm-hmm.
starting to be a trend. We're
Yeah.
seeing leaders ask us to bring in our team to create some sort of experience, for their department or for their team. And so we've done some fun things like minute to win it games that, again, low key, not a lot of skill needed, but just has that midday reset. We do have some that want to be a little competitive, and so they might want a pickleball session and they want to have some
Yeah.
bragging rights, and so that's fun too. But we also have a lot of clients that are really getting involved with corporate games, either within the community where they're competing against other companies, or in a corporate challenge that maybe is going on between their various locations. And that's cool when the leader can get involved and kind of roll up their sleeves and work alongside their employees for the greater good and the bragging rights for sure.
Yeah. You're in it together, right? You mentioned the team building, and I know you have a client that you've actually created a whole, I guess, suite of services, or almost like a whole initiative around team building.
Yeah, I actually have started it at one of our larger clients where we were getting requests from departments all the time because we had a
Yeah.
brand new facility. And so there was a lot of interest in wanting to get the eyes on the facility before they were actual members. And we actually dedicated a position to it because the requests were
Yeah.
coming in so quickly. And I took that and then used it at some of our other sites just to, it doesn't have to be limited to one location.
Yeah.
So we developed a menu of what those activities could include. How much time we need, how many staff we need, and what type of activities might work that these departments or these leaders can choose from. And it has been wildly successful of not only getting people's foot in the door, meeting the need of that leader, but they're now coming back for more opportunities to just participate as an individual versus as a team.
Yeah. I love that. All right. What do you get out of offering these non-traditional activities? Like what's in it for the company?
It breaks down barriers to participation, right?
Yeah.
So not everybody, like we talked about earlier, wants to be in a league or a fitness challenge. I'm not
Not
the
their thing. Yeah.
athlete. It's not their thing, not the athlete. And I feel like there's a lot of resistance because there's just those barriers of wanting to be able to do something, but not feeling confident to do so. So anybody can participate in a book club or a trivia event, a
Mm-hmm.
crafting session. We have one client that even offers a foodie group, which I think is such a cool opportunity
Yeah.
because, maybe I'm in a new city with my job, or maybe I'm a single individual and I want to go experience new restaurants or sporting events, but I don't have anybody to go with. And these clubs that are happening within the work site are creating those opportunities for you to experience something great within your own city, and try something new, but then you're also building relationships at the work site as well. So it's that
Yeah.
gateway and that domino effect that happens of getting their foot in the door, creating a low key, low pressure environment for them to really thrive.
I would love a foodie group. Oh, wow.
Me too. Then I
Oh,
would need
man.
to have more fitness because of all the food I might be consuming,
Well,
but
this
it would
is
be
true.
awesome.
This is true. So I think a lot of companies actually get hung up on, really focusing on participation, but I feel like they tend to be missing the point if they're offering these things and only look at the numbers. What else can they get out of this? What are the benefits that they're going to see?
Yeah, I mean, participation numbers are important, but they don't
Sure.
tell the whole story. And creating culture and that sense of belonging is really really difficult to measure. I don't think any one of us can really put a finger on how to measure that accurately. But the impact is really broader than that. It's not about how many people registered for an event or showed up. It's about the
Mhm.
relationships through that shared experience and how that translates over. And really, with what we're seeing today with clients, it's about how people feel when they come to work. That leads to better accountability and retention, and they're being their best selves while we're there, while they're there,
Mhm.
because we've done something to enhance that experience for them.
Right. I like that. All right. So I said you are our expert. I know now you're officially our expert, right? Because I put it out there on the
Trying.
World Wide Web.
For
What
sure.
advice would you give to someone that wants to get started with a rec program? How do they even get started?
Yeah, I think the key is just to start small, and it doesn't have to be perfect, right? Imperfection
Go
is
for the
okay.
small wins, right?
Go for the small wins. Get to know your population. That's always first and foremost. Get
Yeah.
to know your population, your demographics, so that you can really offer a variety of choices that could meet the need across a broad audience. Don't be afraid to test and learn. Some things are going to work better than others, and that is A-okay.
Yeah.
I think it's also important to think beyond a single location, right? We have so many clients that are remote or they're spread out across multiple states.
Yeah.
And think about activities that you could offer that could happen virtually. A lot of us
Mhm.
did this through Teams calls during the pandemic, and some of those things still hold true to have a meaningful connection. And
Yeah.
you don't need a lot of space or a huge budget to get started. You really just need some creativity and a willingness to be open-minded.
I love it. That's a good note to end on, but I do have one more set of questions, and of course, that is my quickie quiz. So I want to know
Okay.
how are you taking care of yourself? My first question is, what's your favorite healthy snack right now?
Ooh, that's always a challenge for me because it has to be sugar-free and gluten-free, which don't really go well together.
That's a
But
lot, right?
that's a lot, right? It's a little extra. I think my go-to right now are Fairlife chocolate protein shakes. They
Oh,
seriously
people
taste
love
like chocolate
those.
milk.
Yeah,
So good, lots of protein, and so it's usually my morning go-to after my workout.
excellent. And then speaking of workout, what's your favorite workout right now?
Yeah, so you heard me say earlier, I'm not the fitness enthusiast, but earlier this year in January, I started a small group personal training session. Didn't know
Nice.
any of these people, but there's 5 of us in there, and it's at 6 a.m., and I hate mornings. So knowing that I have somebody to hold me accountable has been really
Right.
great. I'm trying to, as I age gracefully over here, I'm trying to work on maintaining and focusing on strength. So that's been really important for me.
That's excellent. All right, my last one. What is your favorite way to recover?
Ooh, well, I have 3 kids, so recovery doesn't happen a lot and, as your mom in it over here, but I would say I kinda get my recharge, just watching them do what they love. I love getting to have the front seat of watching them do all the things that they love to do, but if I do get some alone time, I like to be crafty. I like to make things, and that really de-stresses me, and then I get something really cool out of it too.
And that's why you are called One Crafty Mama, if I may
This
say.
is true. This is true.
Awesome. Well, Rebecca, thank you so much today. And thank you to our audience for listening in. I hope you learned some great things today. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you found today's discussion both thought-provoking and enjoyable. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe and share this episode with your colleagues and friends. We'd really love for you to stay connected with us. Until next time, take care, stay active, and stay curious.